host for today's half hour with 61st Street. With us today is Courtney B. Vance, who plays Franklin Roberts, one of the central characters on the show, and is also a producer. Welcome, Courtney. Before we get started, can you sort of give us an overview of the show in your own words?
A show about two families and actually about a community in crisis. It could happen to any of us where we're going about our daily lives and life happens. This young man, Mr. Moses Johnson, was in a gang-infested area in Chicago, and his life shifted in the blink of an eye. And the police, he got caught up in a drug sting. He and his brother were just crossing the intersection to go to the other side, and unbeknownst to him, the two gangs, which the two of them weren't involved in, were stung. And his instincts kicked in, and he, when everyone was on the ground, because the police said freeze, he got up and ran. And in the scuffle with an unarmed policeman, the policeman fell back and died. And of course, then the police use that as a manhunt for him, and he's completely innocent. We, the audience, knows, and so he's caught in the system now. Mm-hmm. And I, as a retiring public defender of 30 years, he was my line in the sand. When my wife told me that the police were going to charge him with murder, I said, he didn't do it. He can't do it. It can't be him. And I promised my wife that I would take care of our 16-year-old autistic son, and so she can go out and get into the political world. But I said, they can't have him. And I put everything on the line to defend him, my health even, because I have prostate cancer. And the story is about the two families and dealing with the crisis of the moment and getting caught up in the judicial system and against the police system as well. So it's a family drama and courtroom drama.
That is such a good description. I feel like we don't need to throw to a trailer, but why don't we take a look at the trailer?
I believe we've lost the ability to step into someone else's shoes and walk around.
I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
How did you know where the suspect was hiding out and we didn't?
They shot at my boy.
And they lied about it. They're gonna come after us with everything they got. We're going big. We're going big.
Fantastic. This is the creation of Peter Moffat, who previously examined the legal world in shows like Your Honor and Undercover. I'm curious how this project found its way to you and what attracted you, not just as an actor, but as a producer.
Peter and David Shanks, who was the showrunner at Boots on the Ground in Chicago and a former police officer himself, African-American, we met for lunch. And I'd read 2 episodes, and out of 8 of the first season, and 8 more for the second season. But I basically put a question to them. I said, "Are you all in?" Because this is going to be a very, very challenging journey for all of us. And on their word, I said, "I'll do it." And we, to their credit, with all the drama that ensued in terms of shooting this, the hardest part of it, of course, was getting our rhythm as a show. How are we going to do this? How are we going to read these episodes as a company beforehand so we can get any questions and issues that we had to Peter and David, so any rewrites that need to be had can be done, and then we can get these back to the actors so they can begin preparing, and to the directors, so who had 20 days to shoot 2 episodes, to be able to have them so we can stay on task and on time. So that's the journey of every show that tries to do some sort of serial drama or comedy. But it has to be solved. You have to figure out how you're going to talk to get these scripts to the actors so they can weigh in. Now, some showrunners don't really want the actors to weigh in, in which case that's not a show for me. which is why I asked up front, how are we going to do this? Is this a collaborative venture, or is this going to be my way or the highway? If that's the way it was, then I wouldn't have signed up.
You've obviously played an attorney before, one of the most famous lawyers in America, but safe to say Franklin Roberts is a very different role, very different character. How did you even go about your preparation? Where did you even start? I imagine maybe you can wrap your mouth around the legalese a little better because you have experience, but you're also starting from scratch in many ways.
Yeah, and we had to start from scratch. So I much the same way we started in the project you're referring to, People versus O.J. Simpson, where I played Johnny Cochran. I had to start from scratch. I didn't know Johnny, and I was completely intimidated by Mr. Cochran. And so I said, I'm going to read my college chum, Mr. Jeffrey Toobin's book, The Run of Your Life, 2 times, and see if I can find me a kernel. But I'm not going to watch any video. I'm not going to watch any video footage of Mr. Cochran, because I'll be in my head, and I don't need to be in my head. The scripts are great, and I thought that because the scripts are great, people will forgive me any nuance that I miss in terms of how he holds his head or how, So I said, I'm just going to go for it, and that worked for me. Other people during the course of the piece, they watched a lot of video footage. There was no video footage in this one to watch. So it was a little easier in that sense. But the hardest part for me, Miss Riley, was simply the page count. There was so much verbiage, and especially when I got into court with the opening statements, the cross-examinations, 6, 7, 8-page cross-examination scenes, and the 2- and 3-page opening and closing scenarios. It was very daunting, and one that it wasn't a walk in the park kind of experience for me there. I would times toward the end of the second season where I was simply holed up in my apartment all weekend trying to get down 6, 7, 8 scenes a weekend. So
how do you memorize all those lines? And obviously I've seen you in your Tony Award-winning role in Lucky Guy, and I know you had to do that 8 times a week.
Yeah, the theater's different than film, of course, and television, because you have the play to take you through. You have these individual scenes. So I simply had to be there wasn't enough time to be able to, on the day learn them and then go do them. I had to be familiar with them, so that on the day when it was time to shoot them, I'd see the scene and go, yeah, I remember this scene. Okay, let me look at it again. Let me look at it again. Okay, I'm ready. And eventually your muscles get stronger, and the time period between the time you looked at it before and you can go on to the set and just look at it again a couple times, 3 times, and they're in there. Enough to begin the process of incorporating other actors, the blocking, but that's fine with the scenes, but with the opening and closing statements, you just have to know them cold. And so I would get them, the script, that if we had an opening and closing, I would get the script and that's the first thing I would do. I would just get that down. I would just memorize that. And every day I would go over it. Every day I would look at it again and look at it again and look at it again. So by the time time to shoot it, it was in me, and I didn't have to work that hard. I was ready. So that worked the majority of the time.
Speaking of the courtroom, why don't we take a look at another clip where we can see Franklin in action?
She wants you to look at him. I want you to imagine being him. That's the difference between the two of us. What I'm asking you to do is exercise your imagination in place of your prejudice. Now, I'm a little nervous and a little scared, because as divided as this country is and as tribal as we've become, I believe we've lost the ability to step into someone else's shoes and walk around. But it is my hope and my prayer that you will prove my fear unfounded and bring in a verdict based on the real understanding of who Moses Johnson is, not who the world wants him to be.
Wow.
I I like that you say wow, because every time I see you act, I say wow, but I like that you can still appreciate your own work.
It was nice. I said, Miss Riley, from just knowing what it took to actually stand up there and be comfortable. So
Were you comfortable?
I was very comfortable up there, but as I said, it took a lot to get that. That's every day going over it for 2 weeks, and taking 3 days to learn it, and then every day, in conjunction with doing all the other scenes that I have to do. I would, at the end of the day, I would make sure I would go over that. So that's my process. Someone else, my wife, Miss Angela Bassett, has a photographic memory, so she can just look at it a couple times and be boop, done. So
so jealous.
Oh yeah.
So jealous of those
Yeah.
people.
That's the gifted. Nobody like her.
Do you ever still get, like, I don't know, first day of school jitters or stage fright when you know you have a big scene coming up?
Absolutely. Every time. If I don't have it, I know something's wrong.
Mm.
So it is, you just hope and pray that your work is enough, because you do your homework and you have to leave your homework at home and get there and start to interact with people. And hopefully the work that you did was enough. And so that you can, as I said, stand out there and be free and so they can see you and not see you, and take up the time and hold up the production.
I'm actually curious because this show is so timely and it deals with so many challenging topics, and Franklin has a lot going on in his home life as well. Are you the kind of actor who can leave your character, on the set at the end of the day, or do you ever take your work home with you? Is it ever hard to be in that headspace?
No, I got to let it go. I have to let it go because I have another probably 3 or 4 scenes to prepare for the next night, the next morning. So I know I'm not that person. I have to let it go. Because I have a family. I can't. But even if I didn't, I don't want to hold on to all of that. I don't need to hold on to that. That's why they call it, for me, that's why they call it acting. I'm acting. So I'm not living that. Thank God I'm not living that situation. I have to live my life. That's enough.
I actually want to talk about the rest of this amazing cast, starting with Tosin Cole, who plays Moses Johnson, who we saw briefly in that clip. You are frequently part of these amazing ensembles. Maybe that's the theater background, you're drawn to that, or maybe you just like good actors, but chemistry is such a hard thing to define. And as with him as one of your primary scene partners, did that chemistry happen right away?
A lot of times, it has to happen right away. We have so much ground to cover, and I'm a very collaborative person. I was doing it in a meeting yesterday with our production company folks, and I said, we were interviewing a director, and I said, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I really want to say, so what do you think? How should we do this? I may or may not have an idea of how I want to do it, but I've got to, if I empower you, then you'll cover me when I don't know. And that's the way it works. That's the only way it works well, is when people are covering each other's back. And if I'm fighting you and we're a family, then I know when we go to battle out with with whoever we have to battle out in the world, that we're going to lose, because I can't fight a battle on 2 fronts. You can't do that. So Tosin is so. I mean, we were literally and figuratively a family immediately, and that's because they throw the shine to me and the light to me, and I love y'all. But talk to me about you. And so we start to be, and because we have these very intense scenes that we have to do, you have to jump in. You have to jump in. And there, I always say actors are some of those courageous and fearless people that I know, because we have to be a family. We don't know nobody. You know, we have to be, do what we do in front of 1,400 people, and we don't know what we're doing yet, and we're in previews. So we still have to get out there and give the people as good a show as you can, and we still have to figure out, what's going on in this scene, because theater, film, television, it's all talking and listening. Mm. That's all it is. As Clint Eastwood said to Charlie Sheen when they were when Charlie Sheen was just starting out, and he had an opportunity to work with Clint Eastwood for the first time. He said, "Mr. Eastwood, how are we gonna, I'm just so excited." And Clint said, "Son, we're gonna say some lines, and we're gonna hit some marks." And he walked away from it. And that's what it is. We're gonna say some lines and hit some marks. And hopefully, if we do our job right, we got something.
That was a good Clint.
Yeah, thank you.
I also want to talk about another one of your co-stars, the wonderful Ingenue Ellis, who plays Martha Roberts, mm-hmm. Franklin's wife. You have been married on screen at least once before. I imagine at this point you probably have a short hair, although I think this is probably a much healthier marriage, maybe, than in Lovecraft Country. Do you just love working with people again, and do you just immediately have a shorthand that you can fall into?
You can, if the two of you really connect. And we connect and connected, and I asked for her for this project for 61st Street. She was available, and it worked out. I saw her in Clark Sisters, and for that she did on Lifetime, and then I was just floored by her level of talent. And but she elevated our piece. She wanted her character to be a little different than what was on the page. And as I said to at the outset of this interview, that Peter and Peter Moffat, David Shanks and the writer's room were very open to that. And that's rare, that a showrunner is open to a major shift in the character, going in potentially in a different way. She was more revolutionary, Miss Ingenue was, as she saw the character. And Peter and David said, "Okay, let's write it, and let's give us some of your ideas, and let's see if we can make it work." So it worked very well for our two characters. I'm Mr. Inside, and she's Miss Outside. She said, "No, you got to break the system down, tear it apart, and build it anew." Which made it for good drama. So it was very good.
Why don't we take a look at another clip? I believe this is Franklin still in the courtroom.
Oh, wow.
If you ain't got nothing to hide, why run? See, I think Miss Motherwell here just answered that question by making her assumptions and presumptions and assuming and presuming. You shared them. Here we go. Black male on a corner in proximity to other black males equals drug dealer / gang member / someone to be scared of. Never mind the fact that he's 100 feet away from the house he lived in his whole life. We're not looking at that. We're not seeing that. We just seeing his blackness. And when a young black man is seen through a white lens, lazy prejudice provides a story about who he is and what he's doing.
And speaking about this great cast, I feel like I also have to mention the city of Chicago, which has become a little bit of a cliche to say, but it truly is a character in the show. I mean, the show is called 61st Street. Do you think it was important that you actually got to shoot on location in Chicago?
I love Chicago. Chicago is one of my favorite towns. And it is one of the characters because the architecture and the locations are just so unique, and and the people are so unique. And the weather is so unique. So there's nothing like being on location, going in. And our piece took place on the south side of Chicago, So there's nothing like being on the south side of Chicago and, doing your scene, your movie that takes place there. It means you have to, with everything, Jenelle, you can't just come into somebody's neighborhood and think that, yeah, I'm shooting a movie, you got to bow down to us. This is their neighborhood. So we have to go into our neighborhood with our hat in our hand. Would you mind if is it possible? How does this work in this neighborhood? How does it work? And so, you have to ask. And, people aren't used to asking and asking Black folks, how can we do this? Will you help us shoot this movie here? What's the best way? What's the best time? If things go wrong, what should we do? It's that. I mean, the Black folks they were so welcoming to us. The community was so welcoming to us. We had no issues. And if there were issues, we already knew who to talk to. And beforehand, because we went in and said, we'd like to, would you mind? And they said, oh no, we'll be glad to. These are the parameters. We gave them our parameters. They gave us their parameters, and we met in the middle. Everybody knew what was going on. And from talking to David, J. David Shanks, our showrunner, he said, Courtney, it was the most beautiful time that we had there. So it's a great city. It's a welcoming city. I hope to be back there shooting another project sometime the middle of this summer, late summer, early fall.
And they have great food, which is another incentive to go back. So on the off chance someone hasn't had a chance to watch 61st Street yet, what's the first thing that comes to mind that might entice them to, spend a weekend binging this on the edge of their couch?
I would say that it's an opportunity to see a situation that could happen to any of us, that one gets caught up in the middle of circumstances. It could be the medical circumstance, system, the legal system, the prison system. And what do you do? Who do you turn to? Ghostbusters won't help you. What can you do? And it's an opportunity to watch families, people just deal with everyday life and still remain a family. As I always say, the fabric of our country stretches, but it doesn't break. It broke one time in the Civil War, but it was stitched back up and we're back and running. And, it's family has squabbles. And this family has got issues. The police have issues. We have issues in our community, in the African-American community. And, they will be dealt with one way or the other, because if not, there's only one outcome, and that is not good. And nobody wants to really, really look at what that outcome is. So we have to sit down and talk to each other.
And one last thing, because the show has been picked up for a second season, we're going to take a look at a quick promo for season 2 before we say goodbye.
Oh, wonderful.
Was found not guilty. It didn't feel like the end of something. It felt like the beginning.
We're coming for you, and we're gonna bring you down.
It's in the nature of cover-ups that they can never stop.
Keep our mouths shut. He can't touch us.
There's something I need to do. The truth has to be told.
If you do this, nobody will stand with you.
My eyes are always on the prize.
Okay, tell us everything that happens in the second season.
I can't do that.
I wouldn't want to know. I honestly wouldn't. I'm so looking forward to it. And I believe the show was always conceived ideally to continue this story into a second season.
Oh yeah, we shot all 16 episodes.
That's fantastic.
All of last year. So we're ready for you.
That is amazing. Well, again, I want to thank our friends at AMC Studios, and thank you, Courtney, for joining us today. And to everyone watching from home, thank you so much for joining us today for this half hour with.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jenelle.